So we're going to go through the story. We just read this beautiful passage, Daniel chapter 6, where King Darius, we'll talk about him in a moment, writes and says to all the nations, all the people who are under his kingdom, that they need to now worship the God of Daniel, the God of Israel, because his kingdom lasts forever, right? And it actually comes out of this idea of Daniel and the lion's den. So let me give you a very quick rundown about the story and how it actually unfolds. So we finished off last week talking about the son of King Nebuchadnezzar. His name is Belteshazzar. Belshazzar, oh my goodness. Daniel's name is Belteshazzar. King Nebuchadnezzar's son is Belshazzar. Okay, now the reason these are mimicked is because it was one of their ancient gods. It was a name that they used to use a lot, actually. And so they named Daniel this, or they tried to rename Daniel this, and Nebuchadnezzar names his son this name as well. Very similar, Belshazzar. And we noted how in King Nebuchadnezzar's life, he was led on this journey of being led to be humbled by God. And he chooses to humble himself, and he comes back from the madness that he was sent into and glorifies God. Then his son takes over. Sometime later, we don't know how long, Nebuchadnezzar dies, and his son takes over. And his son starts to undermine God and do all kinds of crazy things. He takes the elements that are holy and pure from the temple. They were stolen from the temple in Israel, taken to Babylon. He takes them and he parties with them, drinks wine out of them. He just makes a mockery of God. And so he also experiences writing on the wall, this spiritual moment. And God says to him through Daniel, you better humble yourself. And he chooses not to. And it says that night he is assassinated. And so we pick up the story from there and we move a little bit further on. We get King Darius. King Darius is a Mede from the land of Median, something like that. And this land is very connected to Persia. They're two different places, but they're kind of connected. And so King Darius takes over and he becomes the king now of Babylon. And so King Darius takes over, he meets all the staff of the palace, and he singles out Daniel. Daniel serves him, finds favor with him, does a good job with him, and so King Darius elevates him. He elevates him to become the second in charge. We see this all over the word. We see this in Joseph's life, where he goes all the way to prison and then is taken all the way up into Pharaoh's house, right? Same thing with Daniel. He's faithful and he serves the king, and so he is lifted up. He sets him as basically the ruler of the nation, second in charge underneath the king. And so the other people in the palace, the other ones who want the position Daniel has, I don't know if you've ever experienced something like this, when you start to rise, the people around you want to pull you back down. I don't know if you've ever felt that way. Sometimes even the ones closest to us, our family, when they start to see us rise, almost want to pull us back down to their position. This is what they are trying to do to Daniel. And they conspire against him. They go to the king and they say, issue a decree that only your name as the king can be worshipped. Only people can pray to you. Now this would make sense because in the Babylonian way of doing things, the king is a deity. The king is God. And so Darius, not thinking anything of that, says, well, that makes sense. I'm going to issue this decree, and for a number of days, you're not allowed to pray to anything or anyone except for me. Why did they do that? Because they knew Daniel worshipped God, didn't worship the king. And they'd experienced it with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They would not bow to the idol that was lifted up. And so they use this. Darius makes the declaration, and immediately they go and get Daniel, because the Bible says Daniel immediately goes and he bows and he worships God and he prays to God 3 times a day. And so immediately they go and get Daniel. And as soon as King Darius finds out that Daniel has now been swept up in this problem, he loses it because he actually loves Daniel and he wants the best for Daniel. And so they bring him in and he says, what do you mean? Why are you bringing my favorite one to me? This one works hard. This one I can trust. How dare you bring him before my sight? They essentially say to him, listen, this is how people work, man. They find those loopholes. I don't know if you've ever found those people. They say to the king, can you imagine? They say to the king, nope, what you said is binding. That's how it works. If the king speaks, everyone has to listen. That worked in our favor later on in the story when the king speaks and Zerubbabel gets that word from the king, everyone must bow to it, right? Same with Nehemiah. But in this space, it's actually used to take Daniel out. And so the king looks at this situation and he's bound. He can't do anything. And so he declares, put him in the lion's den. And so he takes his favorite, his most trusted, the one he cares about the most, he puts him in the lion's den. And the word says that this king, this evil king, because we could say, I mean, he was a human being. Let me at least just give Darius a little bit of space. I don't know if he was as evil, but we'll read what he does, so maybe he wasn't such a great guy. But watch this. He goes home, and it says he can't sleep. He can't slumber. His mind is exclusively on Daniel. He just wants Daniel to be okay. He wants Daniel to be okay, and it says he doesn't sleep the whole night. Early the next morning, he runs. The king runs to... I need you guys to note these things. Come on. The king of like the world runs to Daniel. And he gets there and he cries out, Daniel, has your God saved you? These are not believers. Has your God saved you? And Daniel cries out, and I want you to note these words. Come on, write them down. Daniel says, may the king live forever. I have not been touched. I just watched the honor. This guy is not a believer. He's not an Israelite. There's no reason for Daniel to honor him other than it's honorable for Daniel to honor him. And so when he comes, he doesn't say, yeah, I told you. My God is better than your gods. In fact, you should be bowing before me, or I'll get the lightning bolt. No, that's not what Daniel does. He says, may the king live forever. He speaks that. You'll see it a number of times. It was a way to honor and respect the king. And he says, I haven't been touched. And the word says how King Darius is just, he's moved and he's so relieved. And that's where the switch happens. Then King Darius gets real angry. He pulls Daniel out of there. He takes everyone that accused Daniel, throws them in the lion's den. The Bible says before they hit the ground, this is just where the Bible is Bibling, right? Before their foot touched the ground, the lions crushed their bones. Like, what? What kind of, they're busy adapting stories because it's becoming popular on Netflix and things like that. This is fodder for them, and I want to see that scene, right? Okay. And it's this moment where, again, and just track with me, these stories actually mimic each other. If you track back, chapters 4 and 5 mimic each other. We've got Nebuchadnezzar humbled, and we've got his son humbled. The endings differ, but they're the same. If you track then, chapter 3 and chapter 6, you'll see the furnace, and you'll see the lion's den. There's a structure to this book. It's showing you that no matter what journey you are on, no matter whether things are looking great or looking difficult, God is faithful. He's faithful. And so these stories mimic each other. If you go to chapter 1, chapter 2 and chapter 7, you'll see there's dreams. It's King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Chapter 7 is Daniel's dream. It's an incredible way how they structured this book to help us see that when there is evil, God will turn it to good. Where there is brokenness, God will bring restoration. Where we need breakthrough, He will speak breakthrough. And so we see this beautiful moment happen where Daniel is saved from the lion's den, turn into this really harsh moment, because it's not just the guys who accuse Daniel that are thrown in the lion's den. The king also takes their families and their kids. So I just want to remind you, this is not a good guy, right? He's not a good guy, but God is using him. And we've been taking these scriptures and trying to one-to-one them to our lives. Because the reality is we're living in a year of grace. It's 2025. 5 is the number of grace. And I'm telling you, there is greater grace than we could ever imagine for our lives. That means breakthrough. It means breakthrough at work, in your finances. It means breakthrough in your health, in your mind, in your family, in your marriage. It means breakthrough. But that doesn't mean everything is always good. It doesn't mean that just because it's 2025, now every step I take is blessed. Now everything I do is blessed, that I'll never get sick or I'll never face adversity. Not a chance. Daniel faced adversity after adversity after adversity. Even when we go forward and look at what we spoke about before, Zerubbabel and Joshua and Nehemiah, they faced adversity, strong adversity. Don't forget, Nehemiah had to work. They had to build the wall with swords at their side and arrows at their back, because at any minute they had to put the hammer down and fight the people who were trying to stop them. It was harsh. It was difficult. But God favored them. And when grace comes on your life, nothing can stop the will of God coming to pass. Nothing can stop the breakthrough. Nothing can stop the healing. Nothing can stop it, because it's declared by grace, the unmerited favor of the Most High.